This is Dr. Caroline Peterson and Natural Women's Health Institute in Sarasota, Florida. Today I'm going to talk to you about resisted breathing. So resisted breathing is actually like a fancy term for like normal breathing. So in the olden days, people used to be strong, and the resistance for the breathing used to come from having muscle mass. Now we're less strong because we're more sedentary. And so we need little instruments and tools to help provide resistance so that we can move back into that kind of strength breathing pattern. Resisted breathing is something that, people talk about and study for decades, but with COVID, it's become a thing. It's become kind of like, let's say, hip, right? So everybody wants to be doing their resisted breathing now. So good for so many things. And that's awesome, right? Because it was used to help people recover from COVID lungs. And it's a terrific way to build lung volume. It helps improve the pulse. It helps, because it's a better kind of deeper normalized type of breathing, it helps increase nitric oxide levels. And nitric oxide, the endothelial nitric oxide, is what causes vasodilation so that you can actually carry more oxygen, so you have better oxygen saturation. It helps with sleep obstruction. It helps with exercise performance. It decreases inflammation. So it has a lot of benefits. And the great thing about it is that it only takes 5 minutes a day of practice, which is 30 breaths. 30 breaths a day can revolutionize your life and your body. Isn't that awesome? So there are a lot of different little pipes that you can use. I'm going to show you the one that I have. Now, the reason that I have this one instead of others is because, can you see here? I don't know if you can see that. It says inhale and exhale. So not all of them have resistance for inhaling and exhaling. I figure, you're going to do it anyway, so why not exercise in and out, right? Because you got to breathe in, you got to breathe out. Got to do it both ways. Now, look at these numbers. This is the amount of resistance that's possible. And so what I like people to do when they start is to start on the big number. That's maximum resistance. Why do I like people to start on the big number? I like people to start on the big number because then if you can do it, then you can really feel your muscles, the breathing muscles, very well. And you'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I didn't even know I had muscles there. All right. You can go back to it. All right. So now we got it set for the hard one. Now, all I'm going to do is breathe, right? So breathing, what is normal breathing pattern? The normal physiologic breathing pattern is 3-second in breath, 7-second out breath, 6 times a minute. Why? The body is designed to breathe like that because inspiration or breathing in stimulates our sympathetic nervous system, right? So we got sympathetic, parasympathetic, that's our autonomic nervous system, right? So when we breathe in, we fire the sympathetics. When we breathe out, we fire the parasympathetics. We want to be in parasympathetic dominance. We do our best when we're in parasympathetic dominance. But we also need a bit of sympathetic input. And so that is the optimal ideal ratio, 3-to-7. So that's the way that we should spend our lives breathing. And so if you do this 30 breaths once a day in that physiologic breath pattern, the rate, then that's going to help reset your brainstem so that you're like, oh yeah, I'm not even trying. This is just the way I breathe, because the brainstem gets used to breathing like that with practice, and then you just do it. You don't even have to think about it. Alrighty, now I'm gonna practice, and I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, I feel these muscles, and I'll kind of point to them. Okay. So first, I'm gonna go in. So when I breathe in, what's supposed to happen is what's called canister breathing. So I should be very strong, and breathing air is volume, right? So the lungs fill bottom to top. So as the lung fills, it expands the rib cage, side to side and front to back. No vertical escape. That's held down by the core muscles. So we shouldn't see any shoulders elevation. So after the rib cage is expanded, the chest wall is expanded as much as it can, the respiratory diaphragm will be pushed down into the abdominal cavity by the lungs, and that will displace the organs in the abdomen, and that will displace the pelvic floor diaphragm. And so when that happens, the core should offer resistance so that we don't have our belly pooching out. The belly should not be pooching out. You cannot pooch out your belly when you do this. You're gonna have those deep muscles firing, resisting, and that's exactly how breathing is supposed to happen. So when you breathe, when you increase the volume of air, it expands slightly, but everything's engaged. When you breathe out, everything is still engaged because it's part of the pushing the air out process. And so this is a great, it's an exercise. It's an exercise not just for your lungs, but I love it because it turns on all these muscles so that you can be aware of what normal breathing is, where those muscles are, and what you're shooting for. And then, you know, if it's too hard to do 30 breaths in a row at that high number, just twist it down to a level that you can do at, you know, for 30 breaths, and then over time you'll increase it until you're up to 6 and or 5, you know, whichever it is for inspire, expire. And then by the time you're there, you'll be like, I don't even need resistance breathing anymore because I got my muscles. And that's what we're shooting for, is to recondition that whole apparatus.